In many ways, we can imagine the world we live in today has certainly changed and evolved all around us throughout history. But in today's modern world, some things that have evolved throughout time are almost unrecognizable to its original history origins. From the continuous expansions of the Roman Republic to the Han Dynasty establishing the famous Silk Road trade routes. With the year known as the year of consulship in Manilius and Carbo, the year 120 BC was a very significant year and era within history. And so to celebrate the Avocado YouTube channel hitting 120 YouTube subscribers, we will be going back to 120 BC where I will be showcasing you guys like historical events and how it was like in general to live in 120 BC. Most historical points covered in today's video will be used to assist us when we cover how it was like to actually live in 120 BC. So without further ado, let's tick back to 120 BC. Enjoy. During this time, there were quite a few notable famous births and deaths throughout this era. Most of these historical figures would have been ancient Romans, ancient Chinese, and ancient Greek people respectively. And they're the names of Aurelicotta, Hipparchus, Hypsales of Alexandria, and the Gracchi brothers. These people mentioned will be the people I'll be covering throughout this video and throughout this section of the video in general. Aurelicotta, born in May 21st, 120 BC. Aurelia was known as a strict but well-respected and was a highly honored woman throughout her life in Italy. However, she is mostly known as the mother of the Roman general and dictator Julius Caesar, who was born in 100 BC and died in 45 BC. Aurelicotta unfortunately died before her family already of loss of her husband Gaius Julius Caesar, known as the governor of Asia, dying much later in 85 BC, as Cotta had also come to her demise in 54 BC. Born in 190 BC Bithynia, which is now the modern-day country of Turkey, Hipparchus was known as a Greek astronomer, geographer, and mathematician throughout his life. However, despite most of his works being lost throughout time, a lot of other contributions of Hipparchus are only known from the works of other writers such as greats of Philonia the Elder, Theon of Alexandria, Pappus of Alexandria, and much more writers to come. Hipparchus had drawn off a lot of inspiration for his works from earlier Greek thinkers of his time, that including the Babylonians, Egyptians, pre-Socratic philosophers Aristarchus of Samos, Eratosthenes, and as well as Archimedes of Syracuse. Whilst regularly examining Hipparchus's conclusions that his former writers had thought up of, Hipparchus was a very harsh critic towards these works. It is claimed that Hipparchus had either invented or developed mathematical subjects such as trigonometry and the star chart of his era, as well as calculating the complete positions, sizes, orbits of the sun and moon, including other possible planets. Hipparchus was in a contention as the inventor of the world's first analog computer, known as the mechanism of a word that I can't even pronounce. You know what? I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. This mechanism was said to be dating back between the late 2nd century to early 1st century. In a result of his life accomplishments, Hipparchus was shown within Greek history to be highly regarded amongst most Greek astronomers and considering the greatest of all iniquity. Hipparchus later died unfortunately in Rhodes, Greece in 120 BC, known as Hipparchus of Nicaea, due to his place of birth in Turkey. Hypsales of Alexandria, born around 190 BC in Alexandria, Egypt. The records of what specifically happened in Hypsales' life is very limited. However, for one thing, he is known for writing the commentaries on a regular basis on the polyhedral shapeforms, which were most likely just an inspiration of the local pyramids in Egypt at that time. He is also known as the author of the Book of 14 Elements. Hypsales later been officially claimed by the defining manuscript of that said book and to be claimed the original author of the book. The specific context of this book focuses on the inscription of the regular solids within a sphere. Hypsicely is also described in this book, the 3D shapes dodecahedron and icosahedron shapes being in their own relationship inscribed within a spear. Hypsicely had also been one of the many astronomers in this time who were credited for dividing the zodiac circle into 360 degrees, in which he refined the idea from Babylonian astronomy. However, with all the life achievements of Hypsicely of Alexandria, he later came to a death in 120 BC. Despite being born nor dying specifically in this era, let alone the year 120 BC, these brothers are one of many that should be mentioned in greatness within this era of history. Tiberius Sempronius Gracchus and Gaius Sempronius Gracchus, together known as the Gracchi brothers. These two brothers were both born in Rome, Italy, being only a 9-year gap between the two brothers. Tiberius, the oldest, being born in 163 BC, who grew up to be a Roman politician in his life, along with his younger brother Gaius Sempronius Gracchus, who was roughly born between 160 BC to 153 BC. What these brothers did for the lower class citizens of Rome at the time was very significant within history. You could argue even that first possible encounters of people fighting for work rights or justice freedom could have been this specific event. Within the works of the Gracchi brothers, they will be known in history and within their own legacy as the founding fathers of socialism and populism. Basically what happened was when in Rome the rich people went off to fight in the Punic Wars at this time, and the poor people, poor folk, common folk, however you would like to say it, they were all left to do slave labor. Obviously they weren't approving of this, so quite a lot of them, almost most of them, fled to the main city of Rome and they started living amongst the streets. The streets started looking very dirty, filthy, people living on top of each other, or it was just very inconsistent, as I mentioned earlier, in Rome. And so they started eventually getting more savage, the poor people, and this led to a lot of them making their own gangs, involving themselves in a lot of crimes. A lot of gruesome crimes that were done. By the time the rich folk came over back from the Punic Wars, noticing most of their family had died due to these street gangs. You would think a lot of people that have become savage and started street gangs versus people who were literally trained to fight in wars would lead to doom in Rome. Notably, Tiberius Gracchus, along with his little brother Gaius Gracchus, who were the actual grandsons of Scipio Africanus, who was known as the Roman general, single-handedly defeated the Carthaginian leader of Hannibal in 202 BC. These two brothers wanted to, and it felt like the only two people who wanted to actually put a stop to all this madness going on in Rome. The way Tiberius noticed that this situation was getting seriously bad was when he set off to Amantia on a trip and realized that the depopulation of Italy between Rome and Amantia was declining quite a lot. Officially trying to put a stop to it, he ran for election for the tribune of the plebs. His essential plan was to get into the law where he could form a landform bill, which was called the Lem Sempronia Agraria, where in this form Tiberius proposed that all the wealthy senators throughout Italy had to surrender their differences, which they had to give up and surrender all their land, because at the time when you were a warrior or a soldier you had to have like a big property of land to be able to be accepted into the army or the war. And this land form bill that Tiberius made was where the rich had to give up their big sums of land so that the poor people could be able to have more room and land to live, not just living in their poor condition on the streets of Rome. Because essentially when they all flooded into the city of Rome, they made a lot more of a worse situation for themselves in general. And so the rich people changing their differences and allowing the poor folk of Rome to be able to come into their country, this would make Rome more civilized and back to not exactly how it was, because a lot of people were still in poverty, but it would make things a lot more better for them. If this bill was allegedly accepted by the law, the aspects could result in Rome improving the economy more, putting the coin circulation at the time back up again, and the creation of new farming opportunities could increase, as well as even more correct number of men to be enlisted in Rome's military prestige, as well as the lower crime rate within the city. The thing that was currently going on in Tiberius's mind didn't really matter whether he ended up winning or losing this landform bill. It was instead focused on what he could do of the tribune to the plebs to fight the battle against the senators of Rome, which were essentially the rich people of Rome. However, another tribune of the plebs who was under the same position as Tiberius Gracchus, Marcus Octavius, had made a deal to the senators so that when Tiberius had spoken out to the public about his land bill, Octavius would reject his bill statements that were made. Tiberius had then come to the day where he had made a vote out for motion for the public to remove Octavius from the law office, as he had failed to protect the common folk from economical political oppression from the senators. Despite many of these remarks, Octavius had rejected these claims before the people or anyone could even make a vote at all. This ended up leading towards Tiberius taking up more strength within his position by taking the government hostage and making his own rejection towards things such as business, trade, production, law courts, criminal courts, cattle markets, as well as rejecting meetings within the Senate. This resulted in Rome shutting down and Tiberius being the king/leader of Rome. Unfortunately, despite the Tiberius Sempronius Gracchus had successfully put a halt to the government and the senators' antics in the rights of lower-class people, he was later assassinated in June 133 BC, when the senators had successfully schemed with an angry mob in a riot against Tiberius. Despite the success in Tiberius' life work coming to an end, Gaius Gracchus, his younger brother, wanted to continue his older brother's legacy in style by creating his own program called the Grain Dole in 123 BC. This was to subsidize and help the poorest of Rome citizens. The Grain Dole was to become the welfare system of Rome and was also roughly 10 years after his brother's death. Gaius then created a legislation for any neighboring citizens of Rome that were in and around the Latin and Italian peninsula. However, attempts that Gaius Gracchus had tried to complete for the sake of the people and to finish off what his brother had intentionally started was later out of question because of his legislation making him very powerful in Rome. Why does this matter? You see, the senators had gone too far and made him what is called the Senatus Consultum Ultimatum, which was Rome's version of any martial law you could think of from any other country, and so it meant that Gaius was considered an enemy of the law and anyone had the right to go and harm/kill him. This led to Gaius Sempronius Gracchus committing in 121 BC because of his name being viewed by the law as an enemy. The story of the Gracchi brothers is one of the most interesting within my perspective of this era as I was researching it. As both brothers, they ended up trying to help the poor people the best they could, but unfortunately the law got in the way sadly, and they both fell into the similar fate within their political lives. This next section is just some random facts I found out about some things that happened in or around the time of 120 BC. Also guys, if you guys were enjoying this video so far, please consider giving a like to this video as well as subscribing for more videos like this. Also feel free to comment about any historical errors I've made in this video or yet to come. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Another event taking place in and around 120 BC was when the Han dynasty was being retaliated towards the Hexi Corridor Gansu province in China. However, the following year in 119 BC, the Jiangnu Confederation were being invaded by Yu Bingping and Dingjiang provinces. This had unfortunately resulted in many deaths of over 1,000 people in China. Throughout the world during these times, there were many empires that were currently expanding themselves, such as the Parthian Empire and Roman Empire, as the Greek Hellenistic kingdoms were in a current decline within this time. Here is a video that was taken August 14th, 2022 in the Naples National Archaeology Museum in Italy, with a 13-foot tall sculpture known as the Farness Bull. This sculpture was sculpted in exactly 120 BC, thus showcasing a woman who was tied up to a bull by two brothers for a punishment for giving bad treatments towards these two siblings' mother. It was a sculpture made fully from a block of white marble, and it is still up for display in Naples National Archaeology Museum. This final video shows an ancient coin called the Janus of Roma Denarius coin, made in the year 120 BC. On one side, you can see the Janus god, known as a two-faced god, which represent the past and future in time, as shown on the coin. The word Janus is also the original word of the month January. The other side of the coin, however, shows the Roma god, which means Rome. Here shows the goddess of Rome, who is standing next to the trophy wearing armor and Gallic arms. She is also shown to be holding a scepter and wrath. The Roma god was created as a representation of the idea of Rome as a whole. As I mentioned earlier on in the video, a lot of things we've discussed already, like the events that happened in this time, would assumably have been an impact on how lives of many people lived during this time. A lot of regions and cultures were rising as a lot of significant events that happened had helped the world grow in a way. The Silk Road trades had really helped the economy in the Asian region from southern India to China, as most traders in these regions had traded a lot of goods, which improved the world in this time quite a lot. One of the biggest regions in a lot of expansions nearing 120 BC would be a lot of European regions like the Roman Republic. Despite the catastrophes going on in Rome currently, that the Gracchi brothers had tried but failed in saving the Romans, their republic would see growth and justice much later. In Greece, however, due to Rome defeating Greece's Macedonian kingdoms, the Greek independence was slowly declining. Athens, however, still had some cultural importance towards Greece. However, Greece in general had lost a lot of political independence in this time as well. So for the most part, there was quite a lot of brutality compared to today's age of AI, mobiles, and the internet. But there were mostly good things that were done historically important for both today and the people living in 120 BC. In result, we won't ever truly know the average daily life of your local Roman Republic citizen, ancient Greek citizen, or even citizens of the Han dynasty in 120 BC. But the history passed on by then can leave us with the representation of their lives through what each important and non-important individual of that time did in their own lifespan. So most of the research done for today's video was done either through AI or just random historical websites or even just some YouTube video searching. Despite all that, I'll try my best to give all the links and resources down below in the description. Regardless, I want to thank you guys so much for watching not only this video but to the end of the video. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. It's, to be honest, a brand new idea. I don't know if anyone's done this kind of idea concept where they've explored history based on a subscriber milestone, but hey, who knows. Anyways, you guys seem to be picking up quite a lot on, like, whenever I try to or even think of doing a YouTuber milestone video, you guys are already onto the when I should be doing the next milestone, which is still happening. I'm currently, to me recording this video, I have 127 subscribers, and this is a milestone celebration for 120 subscribers. Anyways, despite all that, there will be a lot more videos coming out. I'm gonna try to squeeze it in. There's only a month left of this year, but if I don't say it anytime soon, Merry Christmas, guys, and Happy New Year. I know, like I said, it's like a month early from that, but I'm trying my best to squeeze out the last bit of content. I've got like at best 3 to 4 videos to come out, probably 3 to 2 for this year. Stay tuned for that. And also one thing that I forgot to mention, first time I'm releasing my voice, at least on this YouTube channel, to YouTube. Hey, leave a like if you like the sound of my voice. In terms of a face reveal, that's probably not going to happen for quite a while, but who knows, it will definitely happen at some point. I will address that will happen at some point, but not anytime soon. But yeah, thank you guys so much for not only watching the video, not even only leaving a like, but just for your continuous support. Like, I'm so happy about how the success of this channel has gone. It's definitely a lot more successful than anything else I've done on this platform before. I'm rambling now, but yeah, thank you guys so much, and take it easy. Peace.